School Committee. Just a couple of words to those listening at home, that this year the Regional School Committee and Dover and Sherborn School Committee have a number of things that we're working on this year, including the negotiation of the educator's contract and the superintendent search. So you will be hearing publicly some things about the superintendent search. Most of the negotiation of the contract happens in executive session, but that will be taking up the majority of the school committee time this year. So I remind everyone that's our initial focus, and we will also at the same time continue to support the education of our students as in their curriculum, policy, and finance. So we have an issue that you were expecting us to cover, and we're spending a lot of time on the first two issues. Bear with us this year while we manage through some significant work being done by the committee. This evening we have community comments. I don't know if we have any. We have a couple of younger gentlemen joining us this evening who have to observe our meeting well. And we have two new members from Warrant and Advisory. I'll ask them to stand up and introduce themselves to the committee. They wouldn't mind. Carol Cherico.
Hi, Carol Cherico.
And
Dover-Sherborn.
Dover-Sherborn.
Hi, I'm Stephen Leahy from Sherborn Advisory Committee.
Welcome to you both. And we'll get to know you more as we go through the year. And I'll turn the meeting over to Superintendent McCullough for student reports.
Thank you, Claire. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back from summer break. Hope everyone had a restful and enjoyable summer. I think I can speak for the staff that almost all of us did. I think everyone did. And we're ready to go, and we're excited about the 2016-2017 school year. First up on the agenda are our reports. And I would turn over first to Mr. Smith for the high school student report and the headmaster's report.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mr. Graham, thank you, the chair and members of the Regional School Committee. It's my pleasure to introduce Virginia Dacus. Virginia is a senior at DS, another one of the multi-talented young ladies that we have at Dover-Sherborn, and this year she will be representing the Regional School Committee as the Student Council representative, and will be giving monthly updates to the committee as to student and school happenings. So I'll turn it over to Virginia.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Like you said, I'm Virginia Dacus. I'm the youngest of three who went through Dover-Sherborn. My sisters graduated in 2009, 2013, and my brother graduated in 2014 from St. Sebastian's. Well, as you know, school began, and today senior privilege started, which everyone's pretty excited about, getting to sleep in a little bit later if they have a GR first period or leave early. This year we have 30 new parking spots, which is really exciting for all of us, especially the juniors, because there will be a bigger lottery. So hopefully they'll all get spots if they want them. Homecoming is the weekend of October 22nd. And our first football game is this Friday, as well as multiple other sports teams have started this week with home and away games this week. And our hopes this year are to raise more money. We're looking into some new charities that we haven't looked at before, and our first official meetings tomorrow, as well as I think we have a few teachers who are retiring this year, so a bigger teacher appreciation assembly, and just doing the blood drive and pep rallies and everything. So that's our plan.
Alrighty, welcome. And I will let you, Virginia, know, and our middle school student who will meet Calvin later. Once you give your report, you're free to go anytime.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Graham. Virginia, thank you. I really look forward to working with the Student Council again. It's a great group of men and women. So in addition to some of the things that Virginia had talked about, I wanted to let the Regional School Committee know that we are fortunate to have Distractology back. It's a mobile unit, and you have a card there that gives a little bit of background information about it. It's a program that is sponsored by Arbella Insurance. It's free of charge for the school and for students who participate. It's also co-sponsored by Paul Insurance, they're the local insurance agent who is sponsoring this. And what's great about the program is it's a computer simulated program where students sit in these seats and literally hold onto a wheel, and it has a similar to a computer game that they might play, but it's all about distracted driving, the various things that you have to worry about, texting, the radio, friends, sight lines, distance. So it's a 45-minute module that students sign up for during their directed research, during their studies, and we also have after-school time set up for those students who don't have access during the day. There is a full-time instructor who is there, who's been trained to help the students and give them feedback as they go along through the module. Kids have reported that it's fun, but they've also learned a lot, and some things that help remind them. This year, there's a couple new pieces that have been added. A radio, because as we all know, when we were learning to drive, we also liked our music, and it's understanding the dangers and the distractions that center around changing radio stations and looking down. The other piece that they've added, which I think is fantastic, I experienced it myself as a father not that long ago, is working with new drivers around highway driving and dealing with on-ramps and off-ramps and dealing with backed up traffic. Especially in the summertime, if you're traveling anywhere near the beach, you probably saw exits that are full and you're trying to get by. So it's a really neat program. We're really excited. They're here all week, and students have been signing up in the main office. And it's just another tool to help teach them road safety. This morning I had a teleconference with Soledad O'Brien. Soledad is a former NBC correspondent and reporter who has now founded her own agency that puts together documentaries and productions, and she was the person who came here last year and featured some of our Dover-Sherborn students and faculty in relation to the WebMD series around student stress. This today was a follow-up. She was asking for some input. She's going to be doing a town hall meeting in Washington, D.C., for a number of schools, students, administrators, parents, and so she was talking to me about some things that we see as relative in education today in today's ever-evolving face of education. And one of the other exciting outcomes from that is she said that they're also planning on doing a similar town hall meeting in New York City, and in which case Dover-Sherborn would be invited. So we would be able to send some students, a couple teachers, probably a parent and administrator, down to New York City for participation in that. It's similar to what you probably have seen with CNN with our recent campaign that's going on. You'll see, a lot of discussion threads, and I see it as a great opportunity for Dover-Sherborn, but also for our students to be exposed to education and the major topics. So we have that, and then just a couple other smaller items, nevertheless still very important. We have 2 new television monitors at the high school, similar to the middle school. One of the ways that we communicate messages and information is through these TV monitors. The monitors also will show pictures of athletic contests and school-wide events and drama programs, etc. But we also put important information about upcoming visits from colleges or due dates for particular things. So thanks to the generosity of the PTO, we will be installing one in the science wing, and Paul Butterworth will also be having one installed in the library. So we're reaching a lot of our main areas of the building. Student feedback has been really positive. The kids like to see the pictures of them, their peers, but they also are attracted to the messages and the boards that are up there. So thank you to our PTO for their help with that. PTO has also generously donated another outside bench that students are able to use during lunch, as well as 2 indoor benches that are in our respective lobbies. In the morning, during break, during lunch, after school, they are used, and I heard the kids saying, wow, these are so nice and squishy, and they were really funny, but they really were very appreciative of it. And finally, the last piece of information, and it's a kind of a curriculum tie-in. This Friday, all of our government classes, as well as students in the Global Competency Program, will be attending a program here at DS. The American Ambassador to the Sudan is going to be speaking. Mr. Bork was able to negotiate as only he can, and he was able to bring the ambassador here who will be speaking to a number of DS students about not only being what it's like to be an ambassador, but Sudan. We'll be looking at sort of the global world and obviously our students in our global competency program. This will be an excellent opportunity for them to be exposed to more things that are happening. So those are just a few things.
That's great, thank you, Mr. Smith.
I can definitely second the Distractology. I did it last time, and it was sobering,
Yes.
to say the least.
And Ms. Graham, I would encourage any school committee members that would like to, that have the flexibility, that would like to come by, happy to show you today. I met with PTO, brought them in. If you'd like to try it out, it's quite interesting. So
I read it last time.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, it's good.
Yep.
Thank you, John. Mr. Kelvin?
Thank you. Very nice to be back. Tonight we have Calvin Coker, who will be joining us this year. He's an 8th grader, student council president, and he'll come monthly to give us updates on the happenings of the middle school. Calvin.
So some middle school happenings that are going to go on is on Friday, September 16th, is the 6th grade social from 2:30 to 4 p.m. And then on Thursday, September 22nd, is the middle school open house from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And then on Wednesday, September 28th, is the CAG kickoff and the 8th grade field day. Then on Wednesday, October 5th, is the 8th grade parent-student night at 6:30 p.m. And then we want to thank some teachers that helped out with the D1A assembly: Laura Mullen, Angelo Macchiano, Adam Wiskowski, and Aaron Newman. And we also want to thank the 2 MCs at our D1A assembly, Annie Perizzo and Hope Shue. And then there are going to be student council elections later this month, and each team is going to elect 2 officials to represent them as student council representatives.
Great. Thank you, Calvin.
Well done. I just have a few things to add. If you haven't seen it, I included in the monthly report a link to the 7th grade Welcome Back video. They do a fantastic job just welcoming, introducing themselves and welcoming the students and parents to 7th grade. Next month, I will bring a request for our DC trip, which is tentatively scheduled for June 7 through 9. And then finally, Laura Mullen has worked some magic, and on Tuesday, October 18th, renowned author Lori Halsey Anderson will be visiting us at the middle school. A number of her books are in our summer readings. Great, so we're very excited for that. That's
So I have a quick question because I'm anticipating, because every year with the Washington DC trip, somebody asks me for some breakdown on costs. When you bring the DC trip, can you, just a rough sort of like flights versus hotel versus tour guide, would it be possible to have a little bit of a breakdown? And then I can just pass that info on?
Yeah.
I know it's a year away and it's not going to be exact, but I'm just in anticipation, given that I've gotten the request the last couple of years. That'd be great, thanks.
And then, I can't recall whether it was John's report, Amanda Rogers is both the high school and the middle school, is that correct?
That is correct.
Later in it, I think we have her listed on something, it's just high school, but she's working between the 2 schools.
She's in the language-based program.
Yeah, absolutely, both schools.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Well done.
Nice job, Virginia. Nice job, Calvin.
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Dr. Leduc.
So last Wednesday, we welcomed back our students, very energized, and I always find the fact that day one, unit 1, kids are engaged in learning. So that's a tribute to all of the individuals who contribute to our kids to be engaged in learning. We saw in the middle school report a lot of professional development happening. Certainly we continue to monitor that. Our professional staff takes quite a bit of pride in ensuring that they're kept up to date and current. I wanted to give a shout out to Callie Egan as our mentor leader. She led a mentor induction orientation on August 25th. That was just bar none. She talked about the growth mindset, where we look at how we can instead of how we can't. How we then went over all the district mentoring and induction. There was a personal address from our superintendent. The whole administrative team was there in the morning to launch the day, and the mentors and the new educators were together for the entire day. I did a small session for mentor training. So it's just a great way for us to welcome all of our new educators, regardless if they've been teaching before. Everyone goes through this great program that assures that they're ready to teach at DS.
How many did we have for initially?
At that meeting, we had 16, but we've added more since then, so I think we're up to 18 staff, that's what we told me. But certainly assigned everyone. I want to ask the science, technology, engineering, computer science is underway. I met with the leaders for 6 through 12. Last week, K to 5, we've been meeting over the summer, so we're ready to launch that process. And just to as you recall, there'll be a complete curriculum review of the documents, knowing that these standards are new to the state. They were just recently voted by the state, so everybody's curriculum will be in flux. So we'll be rewriting all of those units and aligning to those new standards this year, publishing some of those next year, but looking at inquiry, and then the 8 principles and standards as they're here. So not only the curriculum standards in earth, physical, and life science, but the ones that show us inquiry and the basics of science, technology, engineering, and computer science curriculum. So we're underway. Family student administrative surveys will be sent out at the beginning of October. We will survey students in grades 4, 7, and 10, and that will happen in the classrooms. And I'll send out the family survey. It's just to get perceptions of families' ideas about what the science curriculum looks like to help inform next steps for us. So it's a comprehensive book.
Thank you, Karen.
May I ask a question? Can you talk maybe I missed it. If I did, I apologize, in one of our last meetings, about the transition from Baseline Edge to Teach Point, and why that, how difficult is it? Do the teachers like it better? How do we know this is the right one now? We're not going to change again in a year and a half. I mean, and does that roll up more easily as we start thinking about trying to have a bigger picture on measurements?
So Baseline Edge was cumbersome from the get-go. I know John would probably suggest the same thing. And while we were navigating it, we thought that it was the right tool. The more we looked at it, the more we talked, even with educators, it was time for a shift. And I'm not so sure it was brought out at school committee meetings, so my apologies for not doing that sooner. And Teach Point became a tool that's more user-friendly. Anthony Rattacco and I spent the summer shifting to it. There is no additional cost. It was covered in what we were charged for Baseline Edge. It's the same as what we're being charged for Teach Point. Both Mr. Smith and Mr. Kellett and Laura Dial at Chickering actually did their, launched it with their staff today, and it was seamless. So I'm seeing this, the way the plans are set up, it's easier for evaluators to access, the way for the educators to access, where before we've had to specifically assign, they can just send out those forms. We'll receive an email when somebody signs off on something instead of going back into the Baseline Edges we had to Teach Point emails sent. So it's more user-friendly. I don't know if I'm accurately representing the whole thing. If there's anything else you would want to add.
I have not worked with it, but just my initial reaction is it is much more
user-friendly. And we have a few teachers who've gone in and they had similar feelings about it. It's easier to navigate.
My previous district used it. The feedback was much more positive. It will serve many of the same purposes that Baseline did, so it's not necessarily going to alter, some of the measurements, because those evaluation and observations will still be in there. But it's much clearer around due dates, timelines, much more efficient in terms of building-based administrators being able to tweak things properly, and their customer service, from everything that I know of, is very good. and they simply have more experience with schools in this area.
And the data all comes over from the
Yes,
baseline edge data all ports over?
it's actually saved in a CSV file, yes.
Okay. So we don't lose any of the background. And then,
And we still have access to Baseline Edge to look at any documents we wish, should we need to.
and if we do go down the line of doing more surveying, I know you were looking at different instruments last year, will that also feed, I mean, do those systems line up, or those are completely different? There's no overlap in that?
It's different.
Okay.
There's no overlap in that regard, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah. In conversations that I've had over the last 4 years with my colleagues, TeachPoint is the much preferred system. One of the things that I think will make a difference, and this is, it's more intangible than tangible, but part of the new evaluation system really being effective, in my opinion, is the ability of central office administrators and even principals who are monitoring what assistant principals, their efforts through the process. TeachPoint allows me, for example, to go right in and easily either print a report or go through a particular school's evaluation documents in a very, again, efficient manner. I took the time at the end of the school year and using Baseline Edge, went into every single document across all 4 schools to look at them. And what would probably take me 3 to 4 hours using TeachPoint to do that kind of a comprehensive just review. It took me probably, I would say 18 to 20 hours on Baseline Edge, just because of the way the system operates. So I think this is a very good move for all of our evaluators, and again, I think we'll see the feedback from the staff be that it's much more user-friendly. So
All for anything that makes our evaluation process more user-friendly and useful. That's great.
Greatly, thanks. The interim superintendent's report. First, I just want to say in the beginning that I want to thank you, the regional school committee and the other 2 school committees, for the opportunity to serve another year as your interim superintendent. It really is an honor to be in that role, to serve in that role here. It's, you know, the Dover-Sherborn schools are really an outstanding school district. Like every other district, we can always do a little better, and that's what we strive to do. But it really is such an honor to work with the members of the school committee here and all of our administrators, teaching staff, and students who take their jobs seriously and at the appropriate times, not too seriously, which is really a good thing for the learning environment. And I'm just so impressed, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve another year. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
The school year, by all accounts, has gotten off to a really good start. The first week of school, I think, was eminently successful. It was kicked off with our annual back-to-school meeting for all of our staff. And in my mind, the main purpose of that meeting is to have staff leave that meeting going back to their buildings with just a real positive frame of mind. And I think that was accomplished with this meeting this year. And I thank all those who contributed to that, and they're listed in my report. I want to specifically, though, thank and recognize the effort and hard work of our central office staff and administrators, our school administrators and their administrative assistants, and certainly last but not least, our custodial staff and facility staff did an excellent job this summer in all of the preparation and the work necessary to have a very successful start to the school year. So that was a job well done, and I want to thank them, all of them for their efforts. In terms of personnel, we did receive a report. It's a list of new staff as it relates to the region. And just to go back, Amanda Rogers, in fact, is providing services at both the middle school and the high school level. And right now, just the way the budget has been set up, that position is fully funded to the high school line, but not that that makes any difference. We also have one addition, the new middle school special education teaching staff that I address in my report. We have hired that person, and that individual will begin Monday. And we're really excited to have that individual on board. And I spelled out, just gave some specifics regarding the makeup of why we had these different vacancies, and you can read through that. So all in all, it really, at the region, not a lot of turnover, and that's a good sign. Let's see, in terms of educational, other support staff, we did, because of needs regarding around special education and some students new to the district and some students whose needs changed as of the end of the year. We did have to increase our EA staffing at the region by 2. So those staff have been hired, and you'll see, we'll be able to report in October what the impact will be to our budget. I can tell you that based on the hires that we made in the professional staff, certainly a fairly good portion of those additional costs will be able to be absorbed in what we call, what I refer to the salary differential, which is the difference between the salaries of the new staff coming in from those that were budgeted and who have left us. So we'll be able to provide you with some more comprehensive information in that regard. And then finally, early in the summer, after our new special education administrator had arrived, we had some conversations about administrative support for that position, and I made a decision to be able to adjust some positions, both at the region and in Sherborn, that I think will effectively allow us to provide that needed support. And so basically what we did was we took that business office associate position, we restructured that role so that the accounts payable portion of it that Dawn had been doing is being covered along with and combined with that administrative assistant support to the new special ed administrator. We posted that position, and the special education administrative assistant at the Pine Hill School, Donna Fiore, was hired into that new role. Again, you'll see the budget impacts at the next meeting, but it's not a negative impact. And as a matter of fact, at the region and in Dover, if we look at sharing 0.6 of that, there won't be any impact. We have some carryover grant money again. That's for another day's discussion that we'll be able to use there. In Sherborn, we actually took the opportunity to equalize that position similar to the special education administrative assistant's position at Chickering, which is a 0.6 position. So the Donna Fiore's replacement, if you will work 0.6 time, 0.6 at Pine Hill. And so there will be, a positive impact to the Sherborn budget based on that. We've changed some other practices around payroll and how that's accounted for the educational assistants district-wide. That will alleviate that responsibility that was in the hands of at Sherborn, that administrative assistant. So effectively, we're able to make that change, and I think that will work well. So I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. Karen talked about the orientation day for all new staff. You received some enrollment reports. Basically, at the region, in October of last year, we were projecting approximately 1,160 students based on our cohort survival, methodology formula. As of the end of last week, we had enrolled 1,187 students, so 27 students above what was projected, and fairly equally split between the middle school and the high school. And of course, there'll be a more comprehensive report based on the October 1 enrollment that you, hopefully you'll get it next month. I think we'll be able to do that. And then we'll address some capital planning, monthly reporting in the next agenda item. I did want to, I did want to do a quick follow-up on the parking. So in the spring, you authorized an appropriation to add more student parking. The right number is 41 spots,
41.
Right, John? That's what I thought. We were estimating at the time 30 to 35. In the end, we were able to get 41 spots. I think that project went very well. I know that a question had come up last week around some communication that went out regarding who will be allowed to park. So just to clarify, and John, help me out here, it's juniors and seniors.
Juniors and seniors only.
Only.
Sophomores will not. The only exception is typically after seniors leave. Obviously, a lot of spots are opened, and we don't have enough juniors. All juniors will then receive. We have granted, not many, but a few sophomore drivers the ability to drive the last typically week and a half of school. So that would be, I guess, something that we would want to formally ask the regional school committee if they would support that. It really helps families. Many of them are still involved with spring sports. They are already, in some cases, starting their summer jobs, and we have the parking flexibility at that point.
No, thank you.
So at our next meeting, we'll discuss some language?
Yes, given that it wouldn't be till spring, we do have a little bit of time. Technically, what should probably happen is the policy subcommittee should get together to review the current policy language, because actually the current policy only speaks to seniors.
I was going to say, I don't think
So
we even last time
we should
looked at the policy.
yeah. So we should look at the policy to
Vote.
update it, and so that would be a good way to include that if in fact that's what the committee wanted to do.
It also needs a change to the vote and all the other.
Leave the room.
Any questions for me?
Yeah, so when we have the financial update, could you also provide some information on the teachers that were hired to what step and lane
Yes.
position
Yes.
that they came in on?
Yep.
And then do you have a sense on the enrollment, more move-ins at the middle school level, at the high school level, less attriting out to private schools at the high school?
Yeah, I don't have all of that information right now. We haven't talked about that yet, but that will be part of the data collection over the next few weeks as we move toward that October 1 report.
What's the total number of student parking spots now?
I think it's 210.
210. It's almost a third of the high school population. Are they pretty much filled every day?
Right now, there'll still be some open ones,
Yeah.
but yes, by the winter, yep, all of them will be taken. And I'm sure that those 41 will too. Yes.
Thank you.
Until we build the garage.
The high school students have done very well in adjusting to the new traffic flow.
They have.
Oh,
yep.
good.
Yeah.
And is that working okay?
It is, yep, we've coordinated together. The signage that the companies put down was excellent. I was really impressed with how they realigned. We did have Officer Graber come down one day, take a look for us, and it has really worked well.
And the fire chief was down as well. So there was input from public safety and us. All of that.
Great, thank you. All right. Yes, so in order to make it easier for John and Scott tonight, we'd like to move approval of the handbook if the committee will allow that to be the next agenda.
Sounds good to me.
So the handbook was first presented to you last June. It was a first look, and the request was that, for that to come back because the Athletic Advisory Committee had yet to review it. My understanding, John, is that occurred. The Athletic Advisory Committee did review it. There were no changes that came. Were there any changes from that particular meeting?
I don't remember anything specific.
There were a few minor things,
There were minor things, yep.
some clarifications.
Yeah, and I think, if I may, one of the things that was discussed and we changed in the draft format was around parent pickup at contests. So in the past, the handbook had basically stated that, we want the student athletes to ride the bus, and we still do want them to take the transportation to and from, but we also recognize there are times when it's in the best interest of families and that child to be picked up by a parent at a contest. So then what we discussed is what would be the best protocol for communication to streamline that so that it didn't become burdensome for the parent and confusing with the athletic director and coaches. So we decided that the parent would notify the coach directly, who would then relay that information to the athletic director.
I just have one quick question. Lori had asked beforehand, and I was looking at something on tryouts and cuts. That last,
What page is that?
page 6.
Yep.
So no changes or additions to team rosters can take place after the first athletic contest takes place during the season, regardless of what the first contest is. So I assume that means if your first contest is a scrimmage. Is that what that's
No, not a
insinuating?
scrimmage. So what that is...
That language.
Yeah, I know, it
clear
probably does need
us?
to be clarified. What that means is, if you look at all of our interscholastic programs, it just so happened that I think golf had the first actual contest. It's when that first contest starts that it kicks in for all of our sports.
Oh,
So for example,
yeah.
when golf had their
What
first
the
meet.
first contest is.
What's that?
I'm seeing it, the key word is what the first contest is
Yeah.
Right.
regarding cross sports.
Right, and because if you were, so for instance, say you're trying out for something that's still in the tryout process,
Right.
and you're gonna get cut, does that mean golf's already started, so I can't go to the cross country?
But that doesn't happen.
It doesn't
It's-
happen.
It's organized such that all tryouts must be over before.
Right, we make sure it funnels into the opportunity for the non-cut sports to still
all
have
tri-
roster openings.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess we can just
Start
clarify
game
that's the first contest of
They recruited her.
that season's sports. And that means a game rather than a sprint.
It does.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, that, we did have some discussion on that because I was looking for some language that said, other than under discretion of the athletic director, because there always seems to be an exception somewhere along the line, and I just didn't want
Yeah.
the athletic director not to have discretion if
Somebody could go play.
if someone comes back from hospitalization or if there's something that, this was very black and white.
Sure.
So if the language is changing, maybe
To look at
up
that.
to you guys.
Yeah, no, and I think you know me well enough to know that I want to provide those opportunities for kids, and I think that there will be some circumstances when somebody was hospitalized or stuck in a foreign country, you know, while.
Whatever, right.
And didn't have that opportunity to participate.
So I would just
want them
make
to.
sure that there's enough wiggle room in that language to give some discretion to you and the athletic director.
I would agree.
Or nobody wants to be a lacrosse goalie.
Yeah, good point. Exactly.
And did anyone else have questions?
Not a question, page 21, top of the page, first line, the word proceeding should be preceding.
Ooh, good catch.
I have not read this quite as carefully through every single line, but that one caught my eye.
Oh, no, good catch. That's all right.
Thank you.
So no further comments or questions?
Wait, which one on page 1? It is,
Oh, preceding. Right. I was going to say, the second sentence is right.
So
Okay.
that's his right, yeah.
So I will invite a motion to approve the 2016-17 athletic handbook as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Joe, thanks, Fred.
All right.
Agenda item number 4, finance and operations. Including your packet was information regarding the FY16 closeout. And then earlier today, you received information related to the FY17 update, monthly report, and some capital planning information. And we'll just ask Dawn to give a brief thumbnail.
Had a busy summer.
Welcome, Dawn, yay!
We've had a busy summer, but hopefully we have some good information to present to you tonight. I'll walk through a couple of the schedules. I know some questions were sent to us. I hopefully through my walkthrough, I will address some of the questions that come up. If not, then feel free to raise your hand or comment. We'll start with the revenue, Schedule A. The Dover-Sherborn assessments, just to be clear, when the school committee voted in June to get back the $850, we did make budget adjustments, so you don't see that falling out as a variance. What you do see falling out of variance, though, is the excess deficiency from 15 that was given back last fall. So that is the 14,000 and the 12,000. The way it was handled, it was then just cut, when those checks were cut, it was put against member assessments. So that's what that variance is. We have Chapter 70 and Chapter 71. I try to explain the differences in what we projected revenues were in June to where we ended up, well, June, whenever your meeting was in June, to June 30th. And there were two in there. Chapter 70, we had seen a little bit of an uptick in students in the two towns who have elected to go to school choice, mainly the virtual schools, TECA. So that is something that wasn't anticipated when Chapter 70 first started going out, but as the census data started coming in, we had those catch-up payments later in June. So there was that final catch-up payment in June that was a little bit higher than what they had anticipated when they were looking at Chapter 70.
Could you review that entire thing? Because the important part, I think, was at the very beginning, and I missed what you said about virtual, whatever it was.
Oh, well, no, we usually didn't have really any activity in that arena, but we have, I'm talking like a handful, less than 5 students who we're assessed for because they go to schools outside of our district.
Okay.
And they're going to
And
TECA?
TECA is the tech virtual school that started 2 years ago,
Yeah.
I believe, and we have like three students there. We're not there.
And is
Going to school that way.
a virtual school, is there a there, or are they actually, they're at home doing their school? Okay. That was the part I was actually
Yes,
interested
they
in.
are,
Thank you.
they're at home. So it appeals to, those students who maybe have medical issues, or those who are, striving to be a professional sports person or something to that arena that they are doing it from home. So that was a slight variance from what we projected in June to how it turned out. Chapters.
Can I just add just
Sure,
a
yeah.
quick comment? So as this schedule indicates, the FY16 budget was based on an assumption that there'd be 1.613 in Chapter 78, and that was the number that I think came from the governor's budget at the time. When the final FY16 budget was passed by the legislature later in June, the Chapter 70 number actually became $1,659,000. That's what was on the cherry sheet. And so what happens though is we need to do, what I think we need to do, we need to be more in tune to identifying at that point in time the possible school choice and charter costs that get netted out against, that final number. The first real sense we get of that, though, isn't until December, when DESE compiles all of the school choice and charter enrollment information, and then we'll see in the December payment, we'll start seeing those charges assessed. We can't be entirely sure that, and as of December, those charges aren't necessarily final, because DESE will do another updated enrollment report from charter schools and school choice students right near the end of the year. So we were projecting, I think we were projecting the net Chapter 70 in June, we can look at that, to be about 1,640,000, something like that. And when the final school choice and charter tuition charges were compiled by DESE for the June payment, we missed it. It was whatever that number was, about 20,000, a little less than that.
Right, right.
Yeah, in those changes for school choice and versus charter.
You say we don't know until December, presumably what the numbers are going to be.
Yeah.
But I would think before that, we actually know there are a handful of kids, and these 5 individuals whose education we're responsible for are not coming to school. It's
No,
just
so
if somebody was really paying attention to that every year, they go in and take a look at it.
Yeah.
We really haven't, because the numbers have really.
I'm not suggesting you do it, but.
Yes, no, but.
Somebody
Yeah.
actually.
But what
could know.
what I have found with especially school choice students, that their residences change from year to year. So we don't have the mechanism through our student reporting system to track that. So often those numbers do change. And there are I think a handful of students that we probably know are either going to school and negative kind of school choice. Why, I don't know, but I'm sorry. But then
They're allowed.
yeah, and there are, we have move-ins that may already be enrolled in TECA, for example, or the Greenfield Virtual School, and we wouldn't pick those up until, halfway through the year when the school choice reports come out.
And we do have one student attending a charter school, just the one, but we're in the beginning stages of that, where we actually get revenue to offset. So that student only cost us about $900 to go out last fiscal year. So that, I think, was one of Mary's questions. Yeah. But that's a sliding scale, and if they stay there, then it's going to be more of an expense. But right now, it was almost a break even.
And just to, I don't mean to interrupt, but a question to distinguish between charter and school choice. There is no reimbursement for school choice, is that correct?
Right, just an assessment.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I interrupted Dawn, I'm sorry, but just as a preview, the good news there is that the final Chapter 70 number for FY17 for the region increased significantly based on the final state budget to the tune of about $130,000 more than what was in the governor's budget initially, so you'll see that in future reports.
So I have a brief question that's not financially related, so we can push this off later. But it is interesting to hear that we have students who are doing virtual or at-home programs. Do we make anything available at the high school in terms of after-school sports or activities to ensure that the students still have a chance to be socially integrated into the community? And again, that can be something that can be brought up at a later time. Because my understanding is that they do something like that, it costs us only $5,000 for them to be out of the district, correct?
School choice.
For school choice, that's a
At
school choice
school, not a-
situation.
The virtual school is a higher charge, but if they go to a
Oh, so what's the
building
virtual school charge?
6,700.
Was still 6,700. Okay.
Yeah. On Chapter 71, back in June, we expected to get $403,000 worth of transportation. When we got it's a two-payment situation for that. You get one in December and one in June. When the one that came in June, it was lower than we anticipated, so when we investigated, we realized that there had been a mistake made when we filed our end-of-the-year report on the Schedule 7, which is transportation. So we quickly rectified that and filed an amendment, and we're told by the Department of Revenue that we would see that money, but it would not be until next June when all the final payments are dispersed.
It's actually DESE that governs that.
Right.
Yeah, the Department of Elementary Secondary Education. Yeah. So once you file an amendment, we know because we've been in touch with DESE Financial, the amendment was accepted. We made the correction, but the money will be accounted for. The money that we didn't get will be accounted for when they do their second transportation accounting in FY17. It's done just a little too. So we will see the money at the end of this.
So that's 83,000?
Approximately. They'll have to, that's what we think it will be, but they'll do the computation.
Unless interest rates go negative in the meantime?
Hopefully not. So that was unfortunate, but.
It's just a timing at this point, so it's not a loss of money, it's just when we will see it. There's a lot of other activity below that. I will say that I've had a few questions about how we handle some of the transfers in and out. We historically don't have a consistent methodology with some of the revolving accounts. Some go directly to the general fund, some go from the general fund. So it does make the schedule a little difficult to sometimes understand, but just quickly, if you look at transfers in and out, the 47,000, we did take in 47,000 from the athletic revolving fund and food service. However, if you notice up above, the parking revenue exceeded the budget, and it is our practice to take the excess and put it back into the building parking fund. So that's why you're seeing sort of that negative, because it's all running in that transfer in, transfer out account. That sort of answers some questions. The non-cash activity basically is just our unused encumbrances that you'll see varies every year. And then of course we have to balance the budget, the E&D utilization that we anticipated. If you move to...
Well, I have a question actually a few pages ahead. It's about revolving funds.
Yeah, we'll get to that, yeah, okay. On Schedule B is just the status of appropriations. I highlighted, I think, let me just highlight the salary variances that you saw between June, beginning of June and the end of June. There were some spring activity, extra comps that were not encumbered. So when we went to make that final payment, there was about close to $17,000 worth of activities that, because we hadn't assigned them yet, weren't encumbered but were paid. So that was one of the swings. Another swing was if you remember, we have unused course reimbursement and professional development money when we pay the teachers to do some of the workshops before school ends. Although the money that we're using is sitting in your non-salary expense down in course reimbursement, it gets paid through the salary line item. So there is, you'll see a positive variance in the expenditures, but a negative under the building-based PD, and that was 16,000. So we encumbered it down when they did the statement for you in June. They encumbered it down in the expenditure line item, but it actually is paid out through the salary. So it's just a switch. So that's what caused majority of the difference in the salary variance. Other than that, its total expenses came in pretty close to what we anticipated. I think they're within 30,000 of what we anticipated at the beginning of June. Any questions on? That's good. Okay. So Schedule C, we try to just do a roll forward of the fund balance. We start with what we had as certified, or E&D. Now that does include the excess because it rolled out. So what I basically try to do is take all the pieces of the puzzle and put it together for you. So for the revenue variance from Schedule A, you see is the revenue variance. For 16, the operating variance is what you see from Schedule B. And then the committee voted to give back the $850,000. So our net operating variance for fiscal year 16 was $230,170. And then when you do the math on that, our total E&D, which was certified, was $1,157,863. And I included in your packet the letter from our rep certifying.
Can I ask you, this is probably a very simple question. The denominator that's on the calculation on D in the packet is 23,211, and on, I forget which page I was looking at, it was 23,180, or it was just a little bit, and it was like a 0.01 difference. I just want to make sure I understand.
So that number, you have to go to 17, so is that where you're looking? It's not 16, it's 17.
Ah, that might have been my difference.
If you go to, that's why it worked nicely that you have the 1 monthly statement, that ties exactly.
Oh, okay, thanks. I knew it was a simple answer.
Yeah.
So I think Schedule C is great, and it looks like it's manually done. It doesn't come off a computer.
Which one?
The Schedule C.
Oh, yeah.
Could we, instead of having the 1,137,000 show up as an operating variance, could we take 250 out of that and just say 250,000 was applied from the reserve transportation fund to FY16 expenses?
Oh, no,
Just-
that's not that. That 250 is what you've used, that's what we've put to 17's budget.
No, in the 1137.
Oh, the 1137.
Has within it the 250 for the RT,
Right.
RF. I just think that if somebody looks at this a few years back, or even a resident went and looked at our schedules, they'd say, how could you be 1.1 million off now? Granted, it was 837,000, but at least we would explain it a little bit better and help remind us that we applied a reserve to bills incurred or expenditures incurred in 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, whereas I understand the previous.
Then they're gonna say, well, it doesn't tie that. But
No,
yeah,
well,
you
the
can
previous
footnote it.
report, I understand, comes
Yeah.
off a computer, so I think that it is what it is.
Right. Okay.
You
Yeah, we'll take a
could just footnote it and say, line 1 or
Right.
4 and 5 equal the operating variance from the previous schedule.
Okay, and then any questions on the general fund operating? Okay. So we did include in your packet, sort of a roll forward of all of our special revenue revolving funds and then our fiduciary trust funds. So you can sort of see the revenue that came in, the transfers in and out, and there are a lot of footnotes with the transfers in and out because it's a net number. So we try to explain what actually happened in those net numbers. And it just gives you an idea of the balances that we have in the various funds as of June 30th, 2016. So the gift fund gave the backups because there are a lot of restricted pieces to that. We felt it was sort of, would be good information to share. There has been a lot of growth in the gift fund in fiscal year 16 because we have received some sizable donations. But this allows school committee to sort of see available funds and what's restricted for what.
And is there a timing, Bill, as to if someone gives a gift within a certain period to use it, or they've
No.
just given it and it's up to us to use it at some stage?
No, that's right. I mean, good practice would be that there's a reasonable period of time in which, especially an earmarked gift, the money is spent. So I think that is a conversation, and it's one of the reasons we wanted to put this out there, so that, that's a conversation that we're sure that we have, and we go back to some of these line items and really understand, what the plans are, if there are no plans yet. For example, is the dugouts, the gift that's earmarked for the dugouts. So, whether that's still sitting there because there have been some transitions.
Well, it's sitting there because we accepted it with the thought that the current field would be the field and the dugouts would go on that field. When there were discussions about changing what Phase 2 looked like, to have a different view of a baseball diamond, it didn't make sense to spend the money on the dugouts. So until that's resolved.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But then, I have a question, because there's some other, like wireless microphones goes back to 2011.
Right, that was.
Is that because we're just never gonna buy wireless
I think
microphones?
it's
and we should
leftover
think
money
about-
from the initial gift. Like, I think they.
Okay, so is there a process then, or is that what we're talking about putting in?
That's
to
what
sort
we're
of
talking
look at-
Didn't we just buy more wireless microphones, or was that with another gift?
That was a gift.
Okay, because I thought, I
But-
went to one of the shows and they were all revised.
Oh, yeah.
Something that happens.
Yeah.
That was another Mudge gift.
Well, it's right. These kind of questions and this discussion is exactly why we've raised it. And
It's awesome.
we need to go back and revisit and make some decisions.
Right,
Exactly.
like the next time that something's looked at in Mudge, maybe that additional wireless microphone money could be
Yeah.
incorporated into the planning
Yeah.
of whatever
Did
project.
you have a question?
I do, actually, not on gifts, on something else, though, if I can, if we're ready to move along.
On the revolving account.
Yeah, well, actually, it goes back to this question of the virtual schools and what we're charged
Okay,
for.
so we
So
just-
please, yes, no, I just didn't
Are you
want
also curious why the virtual school is more expensive than the bricks and mortar school?
Well,
Because I
that's-
am. Because I'm a little
Just
curious
wanna
why if you're
say-
sitting in your house.
Okay, we're not off this page.
Yes.
Did you want to just say the difference between the high school activity fee?
Oh, right, just to clarify that. So there, you'll see at the fiduciary trust funds, we have a high school student activity and a middle school activity account. That's different from what you see on the general fund revenue. The activities that are addressed in the general fund revenue is the $45 that the kids do for the clubs and for some of the after-school programs at the middle school. So that is funded by the general fund and that revenue stays there. The fiduciary funds down here are more the field trip money, seeing all the classes that in the high school raise money for prom, all that sits in those two fiduciary accounts. So that's the difference. So those aren't the same.
This is not an activity fee fund.
No.
We're on E.
Special revenue pay.
It's
Well,
I thought
the-
revolving
E.
accounts?
They're no fiduciary.
What does that mean?
That means that we hold the money in and for the benefit of the students. So it's
It's like a
all
bank
the
account.
field trips.
But then you use it to pay
Oh
for the
yeah,
event.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And we sign off.
So-
sign off the warrant.
Is that where like all the musical costs and revenues go, or do they have
Yes.
their own little?
Nope, it's all in there.
They don't have
Because
their own
within
tin can.
within those two funds, if you go look at their books, they're all segregated by either like the class of 2020, the drama,
Because they're charged an additional fee for costumes and
Right.
all
Right.
of those things.
So everything clear, it runs through there.
Correct.
Any other questions on the page? Thanks, Joe. This is very good. So the forward is off. It's not.
Yeah.
Carolyn and Richard.
So, I'm trying to understand whether we're making money or losing money here. $6,700 say for a virtual school kid, are we, and that's coming out of our budget, we have to write a check to that
No,
6 of it?
well, no, it's reducing our chapter 7.
Reduce it, all right.
Yeah.
Do we assess for these children? Do we get any revenue coming in to offset this?
Well, it's probably built into our chapter 70 development then.
No.
It's all part of the Chapter 70 formula. So what happens is that DESE, well, yeah, it's a charge. There's no revenue that offsets it, frankly. Because our Chapter 70 is based on the benchmark data is the October 1 enrollment number. So it's October 1 enrollment, all enrollment, and then as I'm sure you're aware, there are pieces to the formula. So for every special education student, there's a calculation above and beyond, the general enrollment. For English language learning students, there's an extra calculation, et cetera, et cetera. So, and so our fiscal year 17, Chapter 70 is all emanates from the October 1, 2016 enrollment numbers. DESE, for every student who is attending one of the virtual schools or any other school choice, as long as they reside in Dover-Sherborn, perhaps never having attended our schools, that $6,700 is reduced from our Chapter 70 aid.
So I'm trying to understand so is this just a lost opportunity to get money from the state, or is this actually costing me as a Sherborn taxpayer money to educate this kid? It sounds as though it's simply lost. It sounds as though it's simply, oh, well, you didn't get money for this kid.
I would look at it just as we struggle to figure out what would be the impact of a new housing project that brought 20 students in, and we're trying to figure out how is that relative to tax revenues in either of the two towns. This is, since cost avoidance, the question is at the margin, is a new student, an additional student in the school cost us more than $6,700 or less?
I think I'm asking a more simple-minded question, which is just that, let's say, in order to better understand this, let's say that there were 1,000 students who went to virtual schools. Now you're talking real bucks here. What does this do to our budget? Anything or nothing? That's the only question I'm really trying to figure out here. Does it cost us money, or is it just a complete? They just exist off our books entirely.
Yeah, but we're also not. We don't have. If it was 1,000 students, and our average cost, I think last year was $17,000.
Yeah,
It's a more efficient way.
I don't understand the point.
Well, we're obligated to educate any student that is resident in either Dover or Sherborn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if they are at the region, our average cost is about $17,000 or $18,000. Okay, so if they're not in our building, they're at home, logged on, going through Terry Green's new academy, or the one that she is now overseeing. It's only costing us $6,750.
I'm trying to figure out why it's costing us anything.
Because we're obligated to educate them.
But
It's lost
in
revenues.
what sense are we educating? I'm sorry I'm being thick here, but.
No,
what sense are we
the town is obligated to pay for their education.
In what sense are we paying that, other than just DESE is not sending us money?
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Well-
That's exactly it. We get $6,700 less.
If that kid didn't exist in town, would we be better off, or is it?
Well, that's not the issue that's they are here. It's just the question, are they going to stay home and be educated, or are they going to ride the bus and come to the region?
No, I understand the question. I don't know the answer because I've never heard the question asked in that way. But now that I have intuitively, what I'm thinking is that if that student was not enrolled in our schools on October 1st, that student would not be part of the Chapter 7 calculation. So the fact that we're being charged $6,700, it's not as if that student is part of the formula calculation that gets us to, $1.7 million. And then because they're not going to our school, there's a charge against that. So I don't know the answer to that.
The parents or the guardians are still paying their taxes to the towns that they are resident in.
That gets to the question of whether we're making money or losing money in this case. We don't need to go on this, but perhaps it's worth looking at it a little bit more, because it's an interesting case.
And I would just say that we talked a little bit, so on the revenue side, I'd like to, as we develop the fiscal year 18 budget, to maybe rethink about having a consistent methodology for our revolving accounts so that we treat the building the same as athletic, as all the other ones, so that we don't get ourselves in a quagmire trying to explain what happens on our financials. So that means, yes, as we develop the budget, right, we can sort of see if we can sort of clarify some of that and make it easier.
Awesome.
So really, the supplemental information you received today is really still part of this agenda item. So if we can just touch on that really quickly. Thank you, Don, for putting this together. I think it's very straightforward.
Yeah, I will say that I think one of the highlights of the summer, at least for me, was to get out of the office and do the tours. We actually toured all of the buildings, but we have a lot to be proud of here. I've seen parts of the school that I've never seen before, so it was a busy summer. Campus had a lot of work going on that was all to benefit the students, and we obviously were happy to get a lot of it done this summer. I just highlighted a couple of things that are coming up in the facilities world that we'll talk about during the Capitol. We are having some HVAC equipment issues, so you'll see that falling out in plants and facilities reserve as the year goes on.
Is that here?
Yes.
The high school or the middle school?
All combination of both,
Okay,
yes. And we are talking about looking at the EMS software system when we think about fiscal year 18 capital too, because now that's becoming outdated and is giving some issues in the schools and keeping the system running.
I'm sorry, what's EMS?
The management system.
Energy management.
The energy management.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
emergency.
Oh, yeah, not emergency, no, energy.
Don, just in terms of those school visits, the way they were set up this year is that Don and I, principal of the school, Ralph Kelly, the facilities manager, and the head custodian all met at the building, and we asked the head custodians to be prepared, and the head custodians actually led the tour. They were able to describe and point out and speak to the work that was done over the summer. I've found that that's been very effective. It's what's great about it is it highlights the investment and the pride that not just the head custodians, but all of our staff in that area take in their building. And so it's a really good way for us to really understand all the really nitty-gritty details of what happens during the course of the summer, as well as projects that they've undertaken that we may not have known about had we not gone through this process. So I hope that that's an activity that continues. And down the road, perhaps next year, I think it would be interesting if members of the school committee, are interested to join that tour, because it'll give you some good insights and other information that you otherwise probably wouldn't ever hear as well.
I really like the capital subcommittee. Great idea.
There you go.
So for your reading pleasure, we will on a monthly basis be providing some form of financial report. So you do have a packet, in your packet, the financial statement as of August 30th. It's really too early to talk a whole lot about what's going on there, but I did highlight in the report a couple of things that are done. The Norfolk County retirement payment and some of our insurance payments. Other than that, we'll have a better handle on the salary variances and when we come back in October, because the first payroll will be taking place this week.
Question for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the status of our DEP consent order? Are we out from under that now?
Yeah, I'm pretty, right, that was,
And the champagne is where? I mean, this.
I would assume you guys celebrated at some point, because I always heard that going on in the background, but yeah, we've been.
Because I had never heard that, in fact, they have signed off, and that was as recently as last spring, but I may have.
Oh, I thought that there was a while. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was over a year ago.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, then I just missed it. Then. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Over a year ago, it's tested monthly. We went through the whole school year with each monthly test being passed. There was one exception, it was either March or April. It was, I forget what the issue was, it was quickly taken care of. Since then, we've passed all of them monthly.
And they have now said the sword is no longer hanging over you?
Yes, that was signed off, and
Great.
yeah, that's my understanding.
Thanks.
So any questions on just the,
So it's a nice recap on capital.
well, I've got that yet.
Oh, good.
Oh, well, so that's the next part. So if everyone's set with that, then what I did was just walk through and basically said this is a capital project that we completed this summer. We have several still in process, some that we're still researching, and then we are all done with fiscal year 16 projects. We will have a more financial statement around all this in October too, as we kick off the capital planning for 18.
So in regards to that, we are a little behind, the kind of schedule we had last year for capital planning. So Lori and Richard, you'll get a call soon, coming to a meeting. We are in the process though of our staff, Ralph with our staff, are reviewing the on-site insight report, as well as what we've done the last 2 to 3 years, and taking account of anything new that may have arisen since the FY17 was put forward. So we'll be sharing all of that with the capital subcommittee first, going through the process, and we will, we believe that we'll still be able to meet a target for a FY18 draft that the subcommittee will bring to the full committee in October.
Awesome.
So, per our IMA, we do need to refund for FY15, come up with what our position is for the disposition, run that one item that's on hold.
Right.
And then you also announced FY16 is.
Right. So that's what we'll do in October.
Okay.
We still have bills that are coming in, so we don't want to put any preliminary numbers
Okay.
out until everything had been paid.
But 15, we're
15
done at everything that we're going to do at this point.
Well, no, 15 is where the doors sit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, so that, we still have that money.
Yeah, so
You'll present that.
yeah, we're well aware of that.
Yeah.
We have planned at the October meeting to bring some recommendation for action to the school committee. It's looking like, well, we'll get to that.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? All set?
And we actually, Claire, have really taken care of item number 5 as well.
Capital, yes, so I believe we're on item 7, consent agenda.
Moving right along.
Minutes of June 7th and 2 donations. Any holds?
Nope, look good to me.
I would like to thank the Mudge Fund and Echo Family and Friends, which is a new organization here.
Oh, nice.
For their donations, and I will invite a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Was there anything specific to the Mudge donation at this point, or was it in effect unrestricted but with an idea?
Can you ask the question, Bill?
I would ask Dawn to answer that.
But we restricted it for Mudge Auditorium. work in Mudge Auditorium.
But nothing is envisioned at the moment. Okay.
It was
Nothing
walked in like June 19th, I think it was, so
Okay.
it's just coming
Okay.
to you guys.
I think that people who operate in that auditorium have a lot of ideas.
Well, no, I just was
So
wondering if
I don't
there
think
was-
there'll be a
Yeah.
dearth
Yeah.
of
There's
ideas.
nothing specific yet.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Oh, all right.
With our thanks.
Yeah, very much so.
Communication for members only, did you want to do that?
Yes. Is that for members only?
No.
Oh, members information,
Okay.
sorry.
We're happy to share. So the first item is the 16-17 meeting calendar. So this is the straight meeting calendar. The chairs of all three committees have gone through this and have seen it. We have, there are a couple of notations regarding budget. Once we have an opportunity to meet, are we still online perhaps for a joint meeting with advisory and warrants?
In February 28th?
No, I mean, early on this year to,
Yeah, I haven't
We-
heard
yeah.
back.
So once-
After the meeting, we can.
yeah.
talk
So
about
once
that.
we know the benchmark dates in each community, starting with town meeting and then working backwards for all the requirements that you have, we'll develop, and when warrant and advisory, when you have your calendars set, do you have your calendars set? Sorry, speaking right to you.
Pretty darn set.
Kind of.
Yeah, so we can start sharing that information, and I'd like to put together a budget calendar for our committees, so they can start looking at the dates, because there will be some additional dates relative to budget outside of this particular calendar, although we tried to give some heads up on some of that here. That's the calendar.
We're meeting next Wednesday, the
Yeah.
14th, and we haven't discussed this since it came out.
Yeah. Yeah, right now, our plan is that, so right now, the plan here would be that our first pass budget in Sherborn would be November 15th, so a little earlier than last year, and in Dover, November 22nd, so again, a little earlier. That would be the first pass budget where we would be presenting to the school committees our proposed budget. And then at the region, it would be December 6th. So that's what the thinking is right now.
So needing guidance before that. Needing guidance before that.
I think we know what that guidance is. Anyway, some information regarding what we're now calling officially, the commissioner will be upset if we don't call it Next Generation MCAS, as opposed to MCAS 2.0. So Next Generation MCAS. What we know at this point, what we know at this point is that there will be Next Generation MCAS tests next spring for grades 3 through 8. Grade 10 will not be Next Generation, and it looks like probably not until the class of 2021 is in 10th grade, which would be 2019.
Third graders.
What we also know is that grades 4 and 8 will be expected to take the Next Generation MCAS next spring as a computer-based assessment. The state is assuming that districts have the ability, both in terms of network capacity and devices, to be able to do that. It appears that we have the capacity to be able to meet grade 4 and grade 8. It may mean that we may have to share some devices on those testing days, but we're looking at that. The State Department of Ed, Elementary and Secondary Ed will consider waivers for districts that just can't meet, the needs for that. In addition, and this is new, this is new within the last couple of weeks, In grades 3, 5, 6, and 7, districts may elect to have their schools do either the computer-based or the paper and pencil-based. So our leadership team hasn't talked about that yet. We will over the next few weeks, and we really need to think about what that would look like. I mean, my first reaction to that is, let's do grades 4 and 8 and see how it goes, work out, all of the bugs. And because we know our students are really, familiar with the paper and pencil version. So, but we'll talk that through, and we'll come back with some additional information should that be necessary. Coordinated program review visit dates. So everyone is aware that all 3 of our districts are going through a coordinated program review. There officially are 3 different reviews, one for the region, one for Dover, and one for Sherborn. However, the DESE supervisor who is leading the coordinated visits, both the review and the visits, is the same one for the region, Dover and Sherborn. They're well aware that we in all instances where we can, we act like a K-12 district. So they were able to accommodate the visit dates. So they're the first 2 weeks of January. Those visits will all take place right within that time.
Yes.
At the region, at Dover, and at Sherborn. Karen has been working, Terry Green did an extensive amount of work last year on a special ed piece of this to get prepared for the document review, which will happen
And civil rights, it's October,
Right.
November 29th to December.
Right, and then Karen led the civil rights piece of putting all that information together. So Karen is working closely with Christine Smith, our new special education director, who is technically our district's liaison, and I think we're in really good shape for that process to go forward. So that's an update there.
So every 5 years or something?
Every 6 years.
Every 6 years.
Yes. And then you have minutes from the other committees as part of the.
This is the worst thing for her to go through to get up to speed.
So next on our agenda is items for the October meeting. I've noted today we have this DC trip, sophomore driving policy, hopefully finance comes out, capital.
Finance, budget, we may need to start at like 4:30. But if you have anything in particular that, is on your mind,
That's the meeting.
let Claire know. Yep. And then
We
we'll go
have
back
any
through the.
goals, objectives, time to finances.
Cell tower?
Bite your tongue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.